the equation E is equal mc squared, in which energy is put equal to mass multiplied with the square of the velocity of light, showed that very small amount of mass may be converted into a very large amount of energy, and vice versa. The mass and energy were in fact equivalent, according to the formula mentioned above. This was demonstrated by Kropratz and Walton in 1932 experimentally.
You've got it right here. S4 with E squared in conjunction with Spaced Out Radio.
Alien contact. S4. UFOs. Bigfoot. 9/11. Grays. The Illuminati. Cover-ups. RH negative blood. What are they hiding from
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Now, the men behind the mics, Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and the SOR Spacewire's Eric Markham. You can find more at spacedoutradio.com.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Now, let's travel into the universe. It's S4 with E squared.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I see I'm in the red here. I'm going to turn that down. Welcome to S4 E squared. It's myself, Eric Cooper, the Forest Moon Paranormal, and Eric Markham with the Source Space Wire from Spaced Out Radio. We make S4 E squared. Coming to you live from the mountains up in Concrete, Washington. The opinions and views of S4 E squared do not reflect that of Spaced Out Radio. We fall under the SOAR umbrella, and we are the ones that talk about stuff that most people just don't want to talk about. Ain't that right, Markham?
That's right. And we don't mind a bit.
No, not even a little bit. Tonight we're going to be doing Faeries Part 3. I don't remember. It was so late last time. I don't remember where we left off. We're just going to start off with the ends. So, I've got 2,500, 3,000 some odd friends on Facebook, and it's getting just as bad about politics again as it was during the whole debates and the whole. Come on now. The
Let me see if I can
things.
find some headphones here. I'll be right back.
All right, the things Trump is doing borders, and I got called ignorant, and I got called stupid, and I got called a sheeple, and I'm blind, and yada yada yada, and really, okay, I'm a snowflake liberal, apparently, according to some of these people. I don't like any of the parties. How am I liberal? I didn't vote for Trump or Hillary. But, and I'm proud of the Seattle mayor for stepping up and calling bullshit on these. We're turning into a blatant racist country. Now, where I do agree is that we should be taking care of our own homeless before refugees. That's the only area I agree on. But refusing people to come to our country based on the country they're from. It's ridiculous. And I mean, there was a shooting today in Canada. I think there were. Are you with me, Markham? And no, Andy, it's not even so much fighting over Trump. It's fighting over what he's doing. And it disgusts me, though. It really disgusts me. And now I'm also hearing that they're selling off our national forests and our national parks. How you doing, Mary? But they're selling our national parks, and Congress is letting our national parks go to be strip mined and to be, really, we've had these national parks for, thousands and thousands of years. Well, it's not thousands, but, hundreds of years since this country started. And now we're just going to let them go to be strip mined. And come on now. Anyway, so we're going to stop talking politics. We're going to talk fairies. And we're going to start off with the night hag. Now, the night hag. Hold on a sec here. I'm trying to move my notes over. There, I've got them. Yeah, Andy, the national parks. I mean, this whole cabinet. We're gonna actually do a whole different show just on the cabinets that he's got going on, and get a little deep into their history. Anyway, so the night hag puts the ugly in hag, steals fair maidens and drains them of their power and beauty, stores it for later. They're like a hoarding fairy. Actually, it's funny. We're talking fairies here, and we actually have a case coming up that might actually be a fairy. And there's a lot more people talking about fairies lately in the last, I guess, couple weeks or so. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah. Now, I don't even know how to do that, Markham. I'm going to try to call Markham's landline here in a second. And see if that brings him in any... actually, no, Markham, don't worry about it. I can hear you just fine, and you're coming through just fine. It's on my end. You still talking?
Okay. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I got you. All right, go ahead and talk.
You getting me all right?
Tonight we're just going to deal with echo.
Okay.
And I'll have to get a new set of headphones. So, the Nisi is a kobold or brownie, a Scandinavian fare friendly to farmhouses. Alright, Tristan, I'm going to move. All right. All right. So we moved where it's a bit quieter. And that's part of that's part of what I look forward to is this summer when it gets warmer, we're going to actually be building an office for the quick reactionary team as well as for the studio where I can go outside and enjoy the quiet. All right, so are we still good? Can everybody hear just fine?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. There we go. So, yeah, now that we're back and running good, so yeah, they're gonna strip mine our national forests. They're gonna do the land grab thing again. And the whole thing that irritates me too is, Muslims aren't bad people. And now I haven't heard the news. I don't get news. I watch what people are talking about. I watch what people are saying, but they're talking. There's a lot of rapes in Europe caused by the refugees. Have you heard anything about that, Markham?
Yes, I did. There was a group of I can't remember what they were refugees. They basically raped and killed this girl and filmed it on social media while they were doing it.
Okay, but I want to bring something up. Those, obviously, to a lot of people, represent the Muslims. But you see that in America with normal people, not just Muslims. I think a big reason that hits so much news, too, is because that's in everyone's eye. I think media has a big hype on that as well. Obviously, it's devastating. Obviously, it makes the whole race of people look bad. But does that mean you shut all the Muslims out? I don't think so. And on that note, we're gonna stop talking politics. It's a real hot topic, and every week something new comes up. And so, then in Canada today, and you probably heard
doing something like that, it'd be something else to, violent sex and horror sells, so they'd find something else to, flog in the news if it weren't for that.
Right. And yeah, you were getting your headphones, but did you hear about the mosque shooting in Canada, in Montreal today? There were 5 guys that shot up a mosque in Canada. And it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to start my terrorism class a week from Monday. And my definition of a terrorist is completely different than a lot of people. So it's going to be an interesting class. Anyway, Nixon, not the president, but a Nixon is a type of fairy. They are water sprites who primarily live in the rivers of Germany and Switzerland. They are seen in both genders. Both the females seem to predominate. The females are very lovely and the males are quite handsome, except for their green teeth. Their temperament runs somewhere between mischievous and dangerous. I'm reading the chat as I go here. Metal is an especially potent weapon against them, which renders them powerless and can even kill them. And you know that's with all fairies. All fairies can actually be killed with iron. That's why, like I said last week, if you have a fairy problem, they're malevolent fairies. You take an iron nail and you put it in the middle of a fairy ring, and it renders the fairy ring dead, essentially. And yeah, Christopher, I have no doubt. Christopher is saying, as far as the mosque shooting, foreigners were not even involved. It was North American. It was our own people that shot up a mosque. But anyway, we're getting off of politics. We could do a whole show on politics and piss off a whole lot of people. Nixons have on a few occasions been helpful to humans by warning of drownings and approaching storms, but this is rare. Nixons are considered water sprites found near and under the Rhine River. They have been known to lure swimmers and sailors to their death on rocks. They're master fiddlers who have composed many catchy tunes. Humans are warned not to play these tunes on human fiddles for fear of not being able to stop playing until the strings are cut. Noggles. Noggles are a solitary fairy who lives near the edge of inland streams, which he jealously guards against human encroachment. They look like small gray horses, complete with miniature tack. His two favorite pranks are jamming mill wheels and chasing people into the water. And yeah, Trippin', don't worry, we're not talking politics. We're going to fairies. Naki, or Noki. These are both male and female that can be heard singing at dawn and dusk. They avoid humans completely. I don't think I blame them. If I was a fairy, I'd stay in the fairy realm. When humans try to find them by following the sound of their voices, they either stop singing or move somewhere else and take up the song again, leaving this frustrated follower behind. That's kind of the same thing as Bigfoot when he's knocking. Whether this is done for sport or because they really don't want humans around is unknown.
My guess would be they just don't want us around.
Yeah, blame them? I don't blame them at all. And, you know, I'd just sit down and listen without them knowing it. Now we have Norn. These are Uror, Verorandi, and Scold, the three ladies of fate who transform from old to young, from young to old as they work with the Snath Den Sail. Pronounces destinies upon the heads of sovereigns in triplet rhymes. Their spindle was stolen by the otherworldly. Nucklavies. They're Scottish sea fairies native to the Hebrides Islands. They are ill-tempered in the extreme, are hideous, have large, powerful bodies, and can take almost any form they wish, but they always appear very ugly to humans. When not shape-shifting, they appear as half human and half horse, with fins for feet. If cut, they bleed black blood. They enjoy coming out of the sea and chasing humans just to frighten them. But no one has ever been reported to be actually captured by one. They also prey on other fairies. They can be smelled approaching long before they show up. The odor they emit has been described as a cross between spoiled fish and rotting eggs, all covered with mildew. All right. Nunahi is a Cherokee version of elves. And that's what you'll find with our discussion of fairies, is that we cover every culture. From Native American to, because my research was pretty extensive when it came to finding all as many cultures as I could find. I think the only culture I didn't really hit on was Oriental. So the Nunahai
They tend to run toward the vampiric and the ghost and the like the Japanese and
Right, right.
the Koreans have more of a, like it looks like a human during the day, or when you see its body, but the head actually comes off, and it's sort of like a cross between a vampire and a
Yeah,
ghost.
that's right.
They
That's
got
right.
some crazy crap. Mm.
So these are Cherokee versions of elves. They live in towns beneath the ground. I have a news story for you to look up. Came out in
Okay.
Filer's Files today, which I haven't pulled up Filer's Files. I just caught the headline. But they have actually found alien signals coming from underneath the ground.
Okay, I'm looking that up right now.
Okay. The jinn, that's a good question, Mary. The jinn, the Muslims consider the jinn a class of demon. And I would kind of border that. I would kind of agree with that. Because the jinn actually make demons look like kindergartners. As far as their character goes. But they could almost be... They don't exist in the fairy realm. They can travel the astral plane, but they don't exist in the fairy realm itself. So that is a tricky classification. And yeah, they are they're very unpredictable and not one to mess with, for sure. But the Nanahi are Cherokee version of elves. They live in towns beneath the ground. They are saddened by the suffering incurred by the Cherokee and occasionally offer assistance. The Nanahi led the Cherokee to Pilot Knob, North Carolina. Markham, you ever heard of
Yes.
Pilot Knob?
Yes.
Where they passed through the realm of the Nanahi and were safe. That's in your backyard.
For a while. Yeah. They were safe for a while, but they actually, there's a place near me, a couple hours by motorcycle, called Cherokee, North Carolina.
Right,
Up
okay.
in the mountains. It's a beautiful place. Those people didn't get marched to death. Somehow they avoided the Trail of Tears.
They got lucky.
Yeah, well, maybe they might have taken a page out of crap, I'm drawing a blank. The ones down in Florida.
Oh God, you've got me lost. I heard something interesting today as far as Standing Rock goes, because and I'm not trying to bring politics back in, but Trump did or is working on signing the DAPL pipeline back into working order again. And I heard from one of my native friends today that Standing Rock has actually ordered all of the water protectors out of the area. Now, I haven't heard why. We never got that far in our discussion. So I'm not sure if it's because the law enforcement is being authorized to shoot to kill with no reason, which to me that is as good as martial law. If you can't, that takes away the Fifth Amendment. Not the Fifth Amendment. Search and seizure and having a reason to arrest someone. Which amendment was that? I believe that was the 6th.
Illegal search.
Right. And having to have a reason to arrest someone other than just arresting them for the hell of it. Anyway, nymphs. Nymphs are one of my favorites. The nymphs were minor female deities or spirits who inhabited the mountains, woods, waters, and seas. Like the gods, some were literally forces of nature. They were indistinguishable from the element of nature. There were quite a few different types of nymphs. The Oreads lived in the mountains, while the Naiads were nymphs of the water. All right, Corey, good deal. Corey's got some inside information about Dapple. I'm curious about that. I've been watching it real close. So, such as a spring and lake, the nymphs of the trees were called dryads. Dryads are cool. Dryads are generally, they're more or less considered the spirit of the tree. Hamadryads, Alcyods, and Melee, the Nereids, were sea nymphs. The Oceanids don't have a specific attribute. Nymphs were sometimes worshipped alongside with the gods or heroes in their temples or sanctuaries, though these cults of the nymphs were usually found in caves. Nymphs were often attendants to goddesses like Artemis, or to other nymphs, like Calypso, who has attendants on her island. Artemis was often seen as the mistress or goddess of the nymphs. Since many of them were hunting companions of the goddess, some nymphs attended Apollo or Hermes, looking after flocks of sheep as shepherdesses. And I'm reading the chat room as we go here. The poets and writers often describe the nymphs of great beauty. Because of their beauty, they often received unwanted attention from gods and mortals. They often tried to preserve their virginity like the goddesses they followed, but often they are powerless to resist mighty gods like Zeus, Poseidon, Apollo, or Hermes. Some were willing, but in many cases they were raped. Now, for those that are listening that are new, and you haven't found our chat room, if you look at the bottom bar where it says live, and you'll see a chat bubble. You click on the chat bubble. You might have to register and sign in with Spreaker, but that's where the chat room is. Now, often to escape from the unwanted advances, even from the powerful gods, they were transformed into springs, trees, or flowers. Most nymphs have at least one divine parent, while only a few nymphs have mortal father and mother. Even more important is that many of the nymphs have become mothers of heroes. Oaf is a fairy switched at birth with a mortal. Also used as a derogatory term for someone who is clumsy. Oak King. The Oak King is usually depicted as wearing a small breechcloth and a crown of oak leaves and acorns. In his right hand he carries a staff of oak wood. He is the king of the waxing year, and the other half belongs to the Holly King. If you go back and listen to our pagan show that we did, you'll hear about the battle between the Holly King and Oak King at winter solstice. So the king of the waning year is the Holly King. From Yule to midsummer, the Oak King reigns, taking over the mantle of rulership from the Holly King. The Oak King originated in Europe, also called Robin Redman, and king of the waxing year. His element is earth, is usually depicted as wearing a small breechcloth and crown of oak leaves and acorns. And he is part of the fairy realm. Oak men are male dwarf fairies with huge heads, who are the guardians of sacred oak groves. They are not very friendly towards people, but no one has ever been harmed by one. They are most common in Germany and Scandinavia, especially the Black Forest. They are dwarf. Approach them with caution. Of course, they've never hurt anybody, but you don't want to be the first one.
You're right.
So, Oannes are fish-headed beings from another world. These were considered to be sea gods by the ancient Chaldeans. Oannes lived among men by day, building the great Sumerian civilization and teaching art, science, and religion, while at night they returned to the Persian Gulf to swim in the ocean. The Persian Gulf. Ogre, an inhabitant of fairyland said to feed on infant children. They're big, nasty, sweaty, stinky, oversized fae with green mottled skin. Watch the cartoon.
Yeah.
They're really, really dumb. Oftentimes they chant, eat children, eat children. Turns to children eat, children eat. Now we have Odows.
So what's What's their bad? What's their bad side then?
The ogre, other than being flesh eaters of human, yeah, I believe they're
They
also
eat children.
territorial. I do think they're territorial, if I remember right, too. So, Odows is a race of small, well-formed people with the features of the Native Americans who live underground in North America. They use their magic to subdue the earth spirits who cause earthquakes. And that's something to look at. If you look at locations of volcanoes, locations of earthquakes, and again, look at ley lines, which we're going to do in a show later on, as far as earth changes, and then compare them to some of the fairy lore. An old lock OJ, crotchety old fairy with a walking stick, gathers dust in his wrinkly palms and blows dust into the eyes and necks of fae and mortal children alike to help them drift into a deep sleep. The Onog is the queen of the Sidhe, affiliated with the Sealy courts, keeper of the lost four treasures until the rightful sovereign can be crowned. The Onager. On March 25th, the Onager brays 12 times to signal the spring equinox. He brays both in the night and the day, and the number of brays marks the hour. The male onager is the leader of the herd, and to keep all the females for himself, he castrates any male young that are born. Because of this, the female onager will try to hide her offspring from the male. I can see that. So the Oni centaur. The Oni centaur has the upper body of a man and the lower body of an ass. The upper part is rational. The lower part is exceedingly wild. Ursuli, giants with a mean disposition and a cannibalistic diet. I think most of the fairies, with the exception of the like mountain fairies, the plant fairies, the nature fairies, I think most of them are flesh eaters. That's kind of what I'm gathering anyway. So the Ursuli are giants with a mean disposition and a cannibalistic diet. On the rare occasions that they are seen, they appear as bearded males. Oh, hell no. I guess we're Ursuli. They live on clouds and descend to earth. Oh, say again?
You weren't supposed to tell.
I know it.
Oh.
So, they live on clouds, they descend to earth only to obtain food. They prefer to eat their own kind. Ooh, cannibals. But will settle for beef and human meat if they must. Their touch alone can sicken cattle to death, and they are adept thieves. One alpine legend says that these giants fear cats and will flee in terror from them. There you go. It's always good to have a cat in the house.
You know.
Let alone 5. One can always tell when an Ursuli is around because of the vile smell they produce, said to be like that of a rotting carcass. Despite their size, they're slow and clumsy, and humans can easily get away from them. Otherworldly. Any mortal who inhabits the otherworld, or what humans know as Earth. See also, though recently this is a term used to refer to one specific mortal who stole the 4 fairy treasures. This mortal plots to steal the firstborn who holds the royal right to use these treasures, also known as Rumpelstiltskin. The Ufi is a fairy or goblin, a changeling or elf child, that is, one left by fairies, a deformed or foolish child, a simpleton, an oaf. Payan, not an individual or even a single type of fairy, it is a fairy gathering, a congress or forum. Of all the dwarf fairies of Scandinavia, they meet in secret at the sabbats to worship, play, and discuss business. No known human has ever witnessed this gathering. Their most famous ruling was against a dwarf named Amazi, who was censored and then excommunicated for trying to live as a human. So, we have a little town here in Washington, about 2 hours east of me, over the mountains, called Twisp. And they actually have a human fairy congress. Never made it there. Would like to go check it out one time. Look up a fairy congress. And they actually have a website where they dance and eat and feast and discuss fairy business and whatnot. Kind of be cool to go check out sometime.
The International Fairy Convention?
I believe so.
Oh, that's up near me. That's probably only about 5 hours from me. Hunt Valley Inn in Maryland.
They have them everywhere. There's look up Twisp, Washington, Fairy Congress. So now we have Pain and Janin. These fairies look like small white horses who ride through the Alps. They like to tease and sometimes harm children, but they never steal them. And no child has ever been killed by one. Bringing nightmares is their most usual way of tormenting. Even today, their tiny ghostly hoofbeats are occasionally heard echoing through the Alps, though no horse and rider can be seen. The Pamarindo. This is an Italian male dwarf fairy, very small, mean, and obese. He is a scavenger who kills animals. He wears a hat of fur and red clothes, which are stained with animal fat. He is lazy and disliked by other fairies. Can understand why. He is a carnivore who is either forbidden or unable to make his own kill. Therefore, he must engage in creative ways of obtaining his meat, such as running animals off cliffs or causing them to fall and impale themselves on fallen tree branches. He has ghastly table manners, and his clothes are usually streaked with grease and animal fat. He will not move out of the way for anyone, and has been known to knock down travelers he meets on the road.
I run into him.
Say again?
He lives in Winston-Salem with a bunch of his family.
I wouldn't be surprised. He is extremely, well, that's up here too, actually. He's extremely rude and antisocial. Next, we have Parandrus. The Parandrus is a beast from Ethiopia that can change its appearance so that it can conceal itself by taking on the appearance of its surroundings. It's like a skinwalker or a shapeshifter. It is colored like a bear, but it is the size of an ox and has long hair. It has the head of a stag with branching horns and has cloven hooves. Paris, or Paras, unseelie creatures who steal from their hosts' neighbors and torment the lazy and the greedy. And Robert White says, they're at every Aussie political dinner. I can see that too.
Yeah.
That describes a politician. Pard. The pard has a spotted coat and is extremely swift. It kills its prey with a single leap. The offspring of a pard and a lion is the leopard. Pecs, or pets. The Scottish lowland names for fairies and are confused in tradition with the Picts, the mysterious people of Scotland who built the Pictish broogs and possibly also round stone towers. The Pects were considered tremendous castle builders and were credited with the construction of many of the ancient castles. They could not bear the light of day and so only worked at night. When they took refuge in their broogs or Scythians at sunrise, it seems likely that some historic memory of an aboriginal race contributed one strand to the twisted cord of fairy tradition. The peg powler. She inhabits the river Tees. She is a green water hag with long hair and sharp teeth. She is fond of grabbing the ankles of those who stand too close to or wade into the water and pulling them underwater to drown. There's a lot of them too. Seems like most of your water fairies do the same thing.
Yeah, like that. Was that Jenny Greenteeth?
No.
Same kind
She's
of
Peg
modus
Peller.
operandi. Okay, Jenny Greenteeth is a fairy creature, and that's exactly what she does as well.
Right, and like you said last week, it might be a matter of culture. Every culture's got the same thing, but calls them something different.
Yeah, so it makes you almost got to wonder, that maybe they're not actually fantasy creatures if so many cultures come up with a similar, they call it something else, but the same behavior is being attributed to them.
Right. The Peonades. These are dwarf fairies who wear peasant costumes and small tool belts. They always are seen as male. They're similar to the house brownies of Scotland in that they adopt a home and do good deeds for their adopted family by night. They can go abroad by daylight if they want, but he chooses not to. A lair is a peonate who is a solitary and can't be exposed to sunlight or he'll perish. So it's kind of like the fairy tale about the shoemakers.
Yeah.
Sounds very similar. I like fairy tales because I think there's a lot of truth to most of them. So we have people of the hills, English fairies who live under green mountains. Say again?
So it kind of makes you wonder what we've lost by becoming civilized.
It does. It makes you want to go back to living on the land again. So people of peace. The Irish often refer to the she in this manner. The word she means peace. Peri is a Persian fairy. Evil fairies are called Deves. Parrot. In Albanian folklore, they are female mountain deities of great beauty. They are dressed entirely in white and are regarded as good fairies. They can become very angry towards those who spill bread and will give these sinners a hump. I'm not really sure what that means.
It could be taken a couple ways.
Right?
Like Papa Bawa.
Or they meant to say thump. I don't know.
Well, maybe they're like a hump on your back.
That could be too, because I've heard that story as well. So the Fae suck. They wear the ancient native dress of Southeast Asia. They're neither good nor bad to humans, but are dispensers of justice and lessons. They actually originate from Thailand. Their job is to teach... Huh?
Just coughing.
So their job is to teach humans the lessons they need so they can get out of the cycle of reincarnation. The Phoenix. I like the Phoenix as well. There are two similar versions of the account of the Phoenix. In the first, it is a bird that lives in India. When it reaches the age of 500 years, it flies to a frankincense tree and fills its wings with spices. In early spring, a priest at Heliopolis covers an altar with twigs. The phoenix comes to the city, sees the altar, lights a fire, and is consumed by it. The next day, a small, sweet-smelling worm is found in the ashes. On the second day, the worm is transformed into a small bird. And on the third day, has formed of the phoenix again. The bird then returns to its place of origin. The second version says that the phoenix is a purple or red bird that lives in Arabia. There's only one living phoenix in the world at any time. When it is old, it builds a pyre of wood and spices and climbs into it. There it faces the sun and the fire ignites. It fans the fire with its wings until it's completely consumed. Some say it is the sun that ignites the fire. Others say the phoenix starts it by striking its beak against a stone, or that stones gathered with spices in the fire rub together to create a spark. A new phoenix rises from the ash of the old. Other versions of the story combine part of the above accounts. The tale of the phoenix is very old and is widely known throughout antiquity, with many variations. One of my favorite creatures.
It's actually part of my maternal family's family crest. The
Right.
phoenix. It's at the very top of the crest.
In the Warrior Transition Battalion at Fort Lewis, not sure if it's just Fort Lewis or if it's all the WTBs, but the phoenix was the symbol because of the fact that as wounded warriors, you go to the WTB to heal, and then essentially you're reborn as a soldier ready to go fight again. Or you get out and you're reborn as a civilian ready to either deal with your disability or go back to work, which not many of us can go back to work. The Picts. These are the original people who dwelled in the northeastern coast of Ireland. They were called the Cruithne and migrated down from Gaul or Gallia, France. As the conquering waves of invaders arrived in Ireland, eventually the Picts retreated to the woods and lived in caves and underground forts. They were a small, dark people and became known as the classic fairy people. The Puka. The Puka was a shape-shifting creature depending on the riders. The Puka was either benevolent or a malevolent fairy. They were often identified with PWCA of Welsh tradition. According to Yeats, whom he listed T.C. Croker as one of the sources, the Puka was either mischievous or malevolent, often taking the shape of a horse. Often unsuspecting travelers, a ride that was dangerous if not deadly. Other shape it favored is the ass. Yeats says that Lady Wilde believed the Puka was benevolent and helped like the Scottish brownie. They appeared most frequently on November Eve, night of October 31st, which is Samhain, or the modern Halloween, in which the Puka would spoil blackberry. They're the hobgoblins of Ireland. They have heads resembling human males, but the bodies of horses. They can fly for a limited distance, though they have no wings. Fukas are trooping fairies who run in destructive packs. They are said to be extremely ugly and ill-tempered, and to have frequent quarrels among themselves, wreaking havoc to their favorite pastime. And they will go out of their way to harm children and crops. The Fukas lay claim to any crop which is not harvested by Samhain night, and to cut a plant after Samhain risks provoking these dangerous fairies and their malevolence. So, in spite for taking what they believe to be theirs, they've been known to kill herd animals, particularly cattle. They especially love human babies, and they are always on the lookout for a newborn to steal. And because of their limited powers of flight, they are jealous of airplanes and will do them harm whenever they can. That's interesting. What was that Stephen King movie where they actually had that little creature on the wing of an airplane?
Oh, that was let's see. Originally, that came out on Twilight Zone as
Yeah,
Twilight
Zone the movie.
And then they redid it. That was with William Shatner originally, and then the Twilight Zone movie they reprised it with John Lithgow as the person seeing it.
That's right. Makes you wonder if that's a Fuka.
Well, the movie Harvey with classic movie with Jimmy Stewart. He was always talking to a 8-foot tall rabbit that nobody else could see.
Right.
It was a puka.
Okay. Now we have the Phenodiers. They're completely naked, revealing wizened, emaciated male bodies. Their skin is leathery. They have small patches of silver hair tucked here and there all over themselves. By human standards, they are very ugly. They're believed to have been expelled from fairy society, and now are solitary beings condemned to their watery realm in their hideous form for all time, by the curse of an offended fairy king. They're very ill-tempered, but have never caused humans any harm. Pigwidgeon is a fairy of very diminutive size or dwarf, anything very small. Pillywiggins is a seasonal fairies associated with spring. They are small winged creatures who resemble pixies. They are very playful. Their sole purpose seems to be to tend to spring. Pillywiggins live among wildflowers which grow at the foot of huge oaks. They're trooping fairies who have no ill will towards humans, and they seem only mildly interested in humans. They have been seen mimicking human behaviors, such as weddings and dances, but do not lower themselves to playing pranks. They are quite diminutive and like to ride bees from flower to flower. Their queen, Ariel, often rides bats, and is blonde and very seductive. She wears a thin, transparent garment of white, sleeps in a bed of cowslip, and can control the wind. She can't speak, but communicates in beautiful song. Though she is not seen anymore, she is still believed to exist in fairyland. They are mostly seen in England and Wales. And again, like we said last week, it really doesn't matter where you're at, because if you can meditate, you can communicate with them. So now we have pixies. These are small, winged creatures with heads too large for their bodies. They have pointed ears and noses and arched eyebrows. Their wings are shiny and translucent. They are usually seen wearing seasonal colors in flora. Yeah, I think based on that, you have a lot of paranormal cases where you have, the flashing of light in the corner of your eye. Makes me wonder if those are the pixies.
Yeah, that's plausible.
Pixies are generally friendly, but are extremely capricious and given to non-malicious mischief. The little caps they wear are the tops of foxglove or toadstool. Plants they hold sacred. There's no gender differentiation, seems apparent. Excessive contact with iron can kill them. These fairies are wildly attracted to flowering gardens and are often seen around Beltane. Which, for those that don't know what Beltane is in May. Beltane is what non-pagans called May Day. It's considered...
Okay, I've just come up with something here.
What you got?
Spotting an inconsistency. Okay, talk about how iron kills fairies.
Right.
But then there's fairies that eat people, and basically we're carbon and iron based. So I wonder how they don't get sick because of the iron that's in our blood and our bodies.
That's a very good point.
But regular, like if they're if iron is their bane, then they shouldn't be able to eat people.
I think it depends on the class of fairy, though, because if you look at it, the ones that we're talking about that seem to be the cannibalistic, the malevolent ones, don't seem to fit the same class as most of the fairies we're looking at.
Okay.
I think the ones that are the weakest, or the ones that are more prone to be damaged by iron, are more your flower fairies, more your nature fairies.
Okay. That makes
The
sense.
ones really that you don't want to hurt, you know?
Yeah. The good one.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating too, though. But that makes sense if that was the case, because yeah, we do have iron in our blood. Let's see. So their queen is said to be a tiny woman of sublime beauty, but has created a spring world in fairyland which few humans can resist. They loathe human laziness and have been known to pinch a couch potato until he springs into action. Huh. And we've had cases
That's where
where
my
people got
bruises are
pinched.
coming from.
Huh?
That's where my bruises are coming from.
Right? Let's see. Pixies are trooping fairies who love playing, dancing, and music above all else. They like to have large gatherings known in northern England as pixie fairs. A few humans have come upon these revels and have been allowed to watch briefly, but never asked to join in. While pixies do not seem over anxious for human contact, they have been known to be very helpful to deserving people. The tallest pixie is only 6 inches tall. Pixies are quite attracted to small children, laughter, and happiness. They love gardens, especially heather, and other flowering plants. Like hummingbirds, they are known to sip nectar from flowers like honeysuckle. So what do we got next? That could be too, huh, Robert? Robert's saying Robert's sitting on Eric's sitting on pointy sticks.
Let's leave my sexual preferences out of this, okay?
So the pixie was first seen in 1630 AD. Being pixelated referred to a person who was touched by pixies, implying they were slightly insane or made mad by the touch of the pixie. So now we have the cult pixie, is a mischievous fairy, a pixie pucker fairy. To cult pixie is to take what belongs to the pixies, and is especially applied to the gleaning of apples after the crop has been gathered. The apples were the privilege of the pixies, and to cult pixie is to deprive the pixie of their prerequisites. And I'm scrolling through here. So now we have Plant Ris Dwiffen. And I'm butchering these names, I know I am. These are a tribe of fairies who inhabit a small, invisible land. It is invisible because of a certain herb that grows on it. They're beautiful people, quite short, as any fairy is. And they are fond of outbidding at cardigan auctions. They are honest in their dealings and kind to people who are kind to them. Polivics. They look more like bipedal goats than anything resembling a human. They aid in the growing and harvesting of crops. Generally, they are benign where humans are concerned, but they are not to be trusted. If they aid with your crop, they expect excessive payment at the harvest end. This can be combated by drawing up a contract, stating that just what you will give them and leaving it in the fields overnight for them to find. They will then usually decide your fields are not worth the trouble and move on. Even today, some Polish farmers who wish to have no trouble with them leave extra grain in the field each week as a libation. This way, they know their next year's crop will be looked upon favorably by them. Farmers in the field using sickles are protected because this is an instrument which the Polivics fear and will flee from. Kind kind of interesting because you look at a sickle, it's made of iron.
Yep.
So portals. Portals are a dimension between the mortal world and the sheep. Actually, portals are doorways between the spirit world as well, so it's a dimensional gateway. We'll leave it at that. For the purpose of traveling between the two worlds, examples of portals include beanstalks, tree knots, fairy rings, rainbows, and certain forms of sleep. Portals are usually guarded by trolls in the mortal world and keepers in the She. Portunes. They look like old men and are among the smallest of all fairies, less than an inch tall. They have a trickster's nature. Portunes are best described as English leprechauns. They are superb horsemen, grant wishes if captured, and guard a treasure. But, unlike leprechauns, they can be persuaded to help with farm chores. Hey, we need to go look for one. The Portune can grant wishes, one per
you
customer.
Need some of those.
We need them up here. If he can be physically captured. They are found in burgs and woodlands in England and will grant a wish. And you can try calling them, but they only come if they want to. Puck. Puck's an interesting one too. A merry little fairy spirit, full of fun and harmless mischief. Puck is actually, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, they call Puck a demon. I don't see him that way. In Elizabethan lore, he was a mischievous brownie-like fairy, also called Robin Goodfellow, or a hobgoblin, as one of the leading characters in William Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Puck boasts of his pranks of changing shapes, misleading travelers at night, spoiling milk, frightening young girls, and tripping venerable old dames. The Irish puka, the Welsh puka, are similar household spirits. So there you see three different types, all kind of related to the same being. And in English literature. Now we got Puddlefoot. Puddlefoot is an unseelie bogey that leaves puddles everywhere it goes. Name this creature and he goes away. Pyrenees. No one has actually seen a Pyrenee, but their energy can animate the ancient standing stones of Cornwall. The Raja Jin Peri is the king of fairies in Malay mythology. The Rakshasas, shape-shifting demon goblins that can appear as monsters, animals, or beautiful women to seduce holy men and then eat them. They have side tusks, ugly eyes, curling awkward brows, bull's heads, bloated bellies, tangled hair, and backward-pointing hands. They can cause leprosy, raise the dead, and regenerate severed limbs. Not really.
Also, if you look at the Rakshasa is from India, and if you look at the Rakshasa and compare it to the Wendigo and the Skinwalker, the parallels are, because they seem to be after the bit. They seem to be likened to the alpha predator, the top predator in the area. In India, that's tigers. Rakshasas are like a tiger-headed person. And of course, with the skinwalkers and that, we have large wolves, which were the kind of the apex predator in North America.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost wondering if the culture itself doesn't shape the morphic field of that particular energy spirit.
What I find funny too is so they're kind of compared to demons, yet at the same time, these guys can cause leprosy, but they can also raise the dead, regenerate severed limbs. So they can cause negative as well as positive.
Remember the old series Night Stalker back in the
I think
70s
so.
with Darren McGavin?
Right?
He actually had an episode where there was a Rakshasa that was killing people in, I think it was Chicago's where he was.
Okay.
And it would take on the appearance of like a loved one or somebody that was harmless until it got within reach, and then you were dinner.
It's amazing seeing the different cultures having the same things.
Yeah. It makes you think there might be some truth to, that it's just not old wives' tales, that there might have been something to this at one.
Right. Okay, so Robert's asking, stating he wonders if the fairy rings use ley lines to get places, and that's a good point, and that's something we will be looking at eventually.
Yep.
We got to get the right maps because you have to figure out what you're looking at, and that's where the science comes in. That's where Markham's going to come in. He doesn't know it yet, but.
Oh yeah.
We gotta figure out how to read ley lines, and you can Google ley lines.
Yeah, because the dowsing thing leaves me cold. I mean, if the pendulum, or I feel like if you've got to rely on somebody doing the dowsing thing with the two rods, that's not. I don't know. To me, that's just not going to cut it. Show me something that I can pick an energy signal up from, or amplify a signal and get something out of, and then I'm good. Even if it was somebody who was a good psychic, who could point to a spot where the ley lines intersect, where there's some power, to give me a place to research and to see if I could figure out how to pick it up.
Right, because you can,
even if it's like somebody dowsing pointed out.
But
let me
dowsing,
see if I can verify it.
But I think dowsing or even a pendulum might even be able to pick up the energy of one.
Well, that's what I mean, though. That's the way most of the ley line stuff I've seen, because I've been trying to research it. Somebody goes out there with the dowsing, with a pendulum, but nobody ever goes out there with some kind of instrumentation to verify it, or they can't verify it. If there's something there, it ought to be detectable. It might just need to be magnified, amplified. It's either, since you can't see them, it's either in the infrared, beneath, below our ability to see, or it's in the ultraviolet on the electromagnetic spectrum, something that's outside of our perception as far as that goes.
Well, I wonder if it would show up with. I wonder if thermal would show it up.
Oh, I think that I've seen that. It would seem like if, like Trippin saying, it's never seen anybody use electronics to find ley lines.
No.
I think we've got us a project there.
But I don't think anyone's ever tried to find ley lines.
Out your way for the Paracon, I'll try and have some stuff. I mean, it might just be nothing more than needing to aim a parabolic dish at the ground and pick it up on magnetic media or something.
And
There's all kind of different
what we're
approaches we
gonna
could use.
what we're gonna attempt to do, folks, is basically using a satellite dish and create a form of EMF meter inside a Faraday cage and attach it to my Explorer, so that one, we're going to do some experimenting with UFOs. Matter of fact, my Mrs. Forrest Moon just saw a UFO Friday night, coming back home while we were on Roundtable. But we have UFOs all over up here, so we're
We
going to
go
try.
out every night. I have to walk off campus to get a cigarette. I have to, and where I go to smoke, which
Right?
hopefully nobody I work with is hearing that. I can look up and see the stars half decent.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I go out there, I get a neck ache because I'm spending all my time looking up.
We're going to try using a.
So far, nothing.
Yeah, we're going to try using this satellite on top of my Explorer and see if it'll track a UFO. And it'll be used in our.
Okay, here's something you got to do.
What's that?
I've been researching that because I've got 2 dishes on my roof, and if my ladder hadn't gotten stolen when I was moving, I'd have them down already. People go wrong with those parabolic dishes, thinking you aim the center of the dish at your source. Those dishes are offset. You actually aim the top of the dish at what you're trying to pick up.
Okay.
So what we're going to have to do is find the focal point where it collects, where the where the sweet spot on the dish is.
Right.
And we're going to have to put us a little hole in there and put a laser for fast tracking. We're going to have to put a laser in there that points in the true direction that the dish picks up,
Okay.
perpendicular to the sweet spot. Because I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't do nothing with a dish," and then I look at what they were trying to do; they weren't aiming it correctly.
Right.
And it's obvious. You would assume it's a parabolic dish. You would aim the center at but they're designed to where the sweet spot, I think, is like 35 degrees above the center. It's something I'm going to have to research more into, but I'll verify it. What we'll have to do on your EMF scanner we want to make, we'll set up a laser pointer through the back of the dish, the top of the dish, wherever that focal point is. We'll have to calibrate the laser pointer so that the sweet spot's pointing at the source, not the middle of the dish.
Okay. And see, that's why we have a scientist on our team. Now, not sure if she's listening, but we actually have a scientist here locally that's on our QRT as well. She has a degree in meteorology.
Cool.
And
She'll
actually,
be real handy for what you're wanting to do with the.
Well, we have to go up to her place because she has orbs all over the place. I mean, like orbs she can see physically on top of the pictures that she's taken. And she actually worked for NASA as well as Boeing as a meteorologist. So look forward to going up to her place and having coffee and taking some pictures as well as readings. So now we're on.
I might as well just reconcile myself to the fact I'm going to have to drive to concrete because there's no way I'm going to get all the crap I need to take on an airplane.
I thought you were bringing a camper.
Well, I'm getting rid of the old trip. Yeah, I might. I might.
Okay, so now rainbows. Rainbows leprechauns use as a means of travel through one dimension to another. And next we have Radis, which is the keeper of the wand, sovereign of the city Gorius, golden-haired one, betrayed the people, sentenced by the 12, and kept in a tall tower in Phalius. For her crimes, her wings were clipped. The Raven is the 10-headed, 20-armed king of the Rakshas. Ravan ruled in the kingdom of Lanka, possibly Sri Lanka, until he was killed by a Rama. I'm getting lost here. He was once imprisoned in a mountain for 1,000 years, but he can be destroyed by a mortal. He was finally, after kidnapping Sita, Rama's wife, when Rama and his army of Indian fairies stormed his castle.
That's out of the Bhagavad Gita, right?
Huh?
That's out
That's
of the
what. That's
Bhagavad
what.
Gita or something. The Hindu holy text. It actually sounds like
Oh, the
it's
Mahabharata.
describing a war.
You talking about the Mahabharata?
Right? Yeah, I'm probably pronouncing. Yeah, that because if you read that, with a modern context, that text would seem to be accurately describing a battle between extraterrestrial forces
Right.
or advanced civilizations. Even if they weren't extraterrestrial, they would have been, us advanced past what we are now.
Yeah. And now, actually, if we're talking about the Mahabharata, you're looking at fairy lore as well as extraterrestrial lore. So who's to say they're not one and the same?
True.
Yeah, the Vedas. Andy's got it right. The Vedas or the Vedas. Next one we got is Red Cap.
Yeah.
The Red Cap is an emaciated man with a leathery body and little or no hair. Carries a sharp wooden sai to strike down all who invade the area he decided to guard for the time being. He is solitary and hateful in nature. I ain't gonna say who he sounds like. We can all be grateful there's only one of him. He moves from place to place on a whim throughout the extreme lowlands of Scotland along the English border. He haunts the ruins of old castles and cairns, which he guards with his life. The red cap he wears, and for which he was named, is said to be made of dried human blood. Some say he is a cannibal who will consume fairies and humans alike. So, reflections. Mirrors are enchanted. Mortals do not have reflections in the Sidhe, and Fae do not have reflections in the mortal world. Exceptions are changelings, whose bodies have adjusted to the human world, and half-mortals, who have realized their destinies and embraced their powers in the Sidhe. Specific fairies have the ability to fake their images in mirrors, or are exempt. They are also like shapeshifters, doppelgangers, who carry mortal material in their membrane, though chances are if a fairy's reflection is in a mirror in the mortal world, it means it is coming through. The Rheastrad. And Robert says, make fairy worlds great again. Yeah. The Rheastrad, a transformation of the body to a beast when in the throes of great anger. And I'm going to skip Robin Goodfellow because we've already kind of covered him. Rongardos, an evil spirit that takes the form of a dog, gnawer of bones, picks on lone travelers. And that's common too. You hear a lot of that on in a lot of fairy lores. They like to confuse travelers.
Like the will o' the wisp.
Yeah, that's what I like about Brave, the cartoon Brave. And my kids are what 6 and 5 now, and they see a lot of. I mean, hell, we watch a lot of fairy cartoons here. And of course, you got Brave, which has the will o' the wisp. The Rubies. These are male dwarf fairies in short black cloaks, who each carry a thin, spiky walking stick. Oh God, how come Joe's not here? Fairies with pointy sticks. They're mean to human travelers. They wear large cloaks which hide their faces and seem not to want humans to know just what they look like. Because of this, it is believed they can't shapeshift. They were once credited with being able to summon the wind or the rain, if only for a brief time. They would bring whichever one would most annoy a human traveler in their woods. If the human had no water, they would summon a hot sun. What an asshole.
Really.
And if he or she had no shelter, they would summon a cold rain. They like to yell confusing noises so that travelers lose their way. That's what happened with all the missing people. Fairies did it.
Well, those have not disappeared. They have all just mobilized and become hospital administrators.
What, the fairies?
The ones you were just describing, they're such assholes.
Oh, okay.
They've moved into healthcare. They're hospital administrators now and HR people.
Uh-huh. Oh, but they make their homes in the mountains. I haven't found them up here yet. Rusalki.
Yeah,
Huh?
I say they probably avoiding the same thing up in the mountains you don't want to mess with up there. Nobody else does.
Yeah, good possibility.
I wonder what that would be. Reptilians versus fairies.
I think okay, so the reptilians have technology. I think the reptilians, the fairies, will kick their ass. I really do. The fairies plus Bigfoot against reptilian.
Throw in a dog man. That might. Okay, I think I'm going to start writing a series of books.
Oh, Rusalki, lovely female water fairies with long green hair who like to play water games with people. They do not seem deliberately malicious, but sometimes their games get rough and dangerous. I can see that. Rhyme, the frost giant, the enemy of the elves and the fairies. At the end of the world, this giant is to be the pilot of the ship Nagelfair. Saffron is a favorite among... Say again?
That's from the Norse mythology, right?
You need to work on my guitar.
Coop.
Yeah.
Is that now that the giant? That's from like the Norse mythology, right?
Oh, the rhyme?
Yeah, the one that's the giant that's going to pilot the ship.
Yeah, the Nagelfair.
Okay, as a point of interest, anybody who's interested in the Norse fairies or the Norse fairy tales and the Norse mythology, Neil Gaiman has just put out a new book where he's I don't know if that was a Skype issue or a Spreaker. I don't
That
know if that
was
was
my
Skype
internet.
or Spreaker because it seemed like the. Oh, okay.
My internet cut off completely and had to reset everything. All right, outstanding. We're still here. Okay, so you were sharing some information about the Norse.
Yeah, there's an author I really love. His name is Neil Gaiman, and he has used like the Norse, and he's used a lot of the source material that we're talking about tonight, and weaves it into his books, like American Gods.
Yeah, that's
Well,
cool.
he has just published a book of the Norse mythology. And if you're interested in the fairies, the ice giants, that kind of stuff, I would say go to the library, see if you can get a hold of American Gods, and go to and try to get the his new Norse mythology, because that man can. I'd rather read his grocery list than just about anybody else is right.
Now, does
He'll
he
treat
talk
it
about
good in his
Ragnarok?
detail. Do what?
Does he talk about Ragnarok at all?
Yes, I'm sure he will. Yeah.
Ragnarok is I don't remember. I think it's the universal wolf that destroys the earth. It's kind of like the Norse version of Armageddon, essentially.
Right. Well, what's weird is they put Ragnarok like it already happened because their sun god was named Balder.
Right.
And he was and it's almost like a Achilles type thing. His mother went around and asked everything on Earth not to kill Balder, and everything agreed because sunlight's a good thing. Well, the only thing she overlooked was mistletoe, because what kind of harm could mistletoe do? Well, the Norse gods are all hanging out, throwing rocks and arrows and spears, and they're just bouncing off Balder. Well, Loki, who is the trickster, sort of the Norse version of the devil, makes an arrow out of mistletoe. And they had a blind god named Hod. I think he was Fate, or I can't remember Hod's role in the pantheon, but Loki helps him shoot this mistletoe arrow, and that kills the sun. That kills Balder. And they have their whole Ragnarok comes out. Fenris the wolf, the Midgard serpent, Thor. Basically, all the war gods and the badass gods kill each other off in this Armageddon, and then everything's cool again.
Yeah.
It's like they're unique in that their mythology, they've already had their end of the world, and the good times are here.
Okay. I'm looking ahead here as we go. So we have the Cellular Andes. These are scaled fairies resembling bipedal lizards. It's like they're trying to say salamanders, huh?
Yeah. Almost makes you wonder if they're not reptilians that have been misinterpreted.
It could be. They may be a corruption of salamander, the elemental fire archetype of ceremonial magic. Cellular Andes are nude and always cold. Yep, reptilian. So they seek out human fires. They don't harm humans, but their sudden appearance can be frightening. It is said they can start no fires of their own. All right. Santa Claus. Really? Santa Claus is a one-of-a-kind fairy, is always portrayed as portly, a condition indicative of abundance. He wears a red or green winter suit and has a sprig of holly in his hat. He is also shown as smiling and happy. He is benevolent, especially to children. Go figure.
Anti-Krampus.
Yep. I like that movie. Satcher, part fey man, part goat. Loves to party with nymphs. Who wouldn't? Scientist, male and or female mortal who steals fairy magic through means of catching a fairy and torturing the secrets of the fae from them in order to pass it off as modern discovery. Seelie
I
is
am
a
not
fae
one of
belonging to one of the two royal courts in the Sidhe. The uninformed generally describe the Seelie court as the good court. Selkies. Here we go. Selkies are seaside fairies native to the Hebrides and northern Scottish islands. They appear as seals with some human characteristics, but legend says that they can shed their seal skins and appear with perfect male or female forms, which are very alluring to young men and women. Their attitude and intent towards humans is an incomplete and foggy picture. Some Selkies have been lured into the human world where they live as mortals, but more often they lure mates into their realm. They can't steal human mates as some sea fairies do, but must induce them to come willingly. They are capricious, but less so than many of their kind, and humans who mate with them must always keep their jealous natures in mind. When they tire of their human mates, as they inevitably do, they will leave them to die of broken hearts. Assholes.
Yeah.
So, servant. No one has actually seen a servant, but we know they have very mischievous natures. Though servants have never been seen, we know of them because they leave behind their mischief and their footprints. Like the Trows of the Shetlands, they like to go abroad at night and hide things in odd places. They are most commonly, they originate from Switzerland. Shades, pale, beautiful fey women with flowing dresses and shimmering eyes. Their touch burns and causes scars. They are drawn to fey and mortal girls with a curiosity that could kill their victims. Shellycoats. These are small fairies who dwell in pools of shallow fresh water and in woodland lakes. They're fish-like in appearance, but have huge mouths and huge eyes which enable them to see very well at night. They have very round bodies with very few scales and are usually dark red or purple in color. They bob near the surface like large beach balls, usually with only their big eyes showing. Shellycoats like to play harmless pranks. These water fairies like to baffle travelers who are looking for water to drink in which to recreate. They are not evil, but their pranks are sometimes mean. Shopilties, playful little water horse, which have not been reported as having been seen for more than 100 years. It is believed these playful sprites of the North Sea have died out, but once they heavily populated the sea and were playful and friendly with both sailors and with people along the seashore. Silkies, any fae known to entice both fae and mortal children to sleep, ranging from the size of tiny flaming dots, rodent sizes, and mortal adults. Then we have ones called silent moving folk, Scottish fairies who live in green knolls and in the mountain fastness of the Highlands. Sylvani, winged wood nymphs who have a very filmy appearance, almost ghostly. They are of no use to humans but don't seek to harm us. They wear red clothes and animal furs, particularly goat skins. These harmless fairies do not look whole when they are seen, but this may be simply the way they look when manifesting on the physical plane. Humans appear much the same way in the astral world. Sylvani, whose name means wooded, love the color red. They wear it all the time and are very attracted to anything of this color. So if you want to communicate with one, I'd bring in a red candle or something. They can be found in the Italian Alps, Now we have sirens.
Okay.
What do you got?
All right. Remember that Utsi, the guy they found up in the Tyrolean Alps on the border of Italy? Out, he had been frozen. He had died, basically been mummified, and then a glacier covered him, and these hikers found him years later. Wouldn't it be funny if he was a victim of those?
Possibly. 'Cause, I mean, a lot of these are coming from European mountain areas. Physically, anyway. I mean, they can all travel astral.
Yeah.
They can all travel dimensional, so they can come here, but yeah, most of your physical encounters are in the European mountain ranges. So now we have siren. The siren is a deadly creature, half human, half bird or fish. Early sources say the siren is human, always female. From the head to the navel, and bird from the waist down. Later sources say that the siren is fish from the waist down, like a mermaid. They usually have wings. In some cases, sirens are described as having both bird's feet and a fish tail, as for example by Philippe de Théon. Sirens charm men with their beautiful singing. Sailors who are attracted to the singing fall asleep. The sirens then attack the men and tear their flesh. They sing when it is stormy, but weep when the weather is fair. Well, go figure. Right? If the weather's fair, they aren't able to lure you in. So the name siren has also been used for a snake with wings. Isidore says that in Arabia there are winged snakes called sirens whose bite is followed by death before pain. The description seems to be a combination of that of the dipsa and the jaculus. Sigitrol, waterlogged beasts, emerge from lakes and rivers to drown unwary travelers. Runes etched on stone on either side of the bay will keep them captive. Fae and mortal alike must beware when the mist obstructs the runes. Exactly, Robert. Robert says not going to wreck ships in clear weather. Skinwalkers. Mortals who steal the skins of animals, mortals and fae, in order to take the borrowed skin's power or otherwise hide under another identity. The cursed were the first to borrow this practice through the help of a traitorous fae. And they also compare the skinwalker to a Sasquatch. I don't see it, and I don't buy that one.
No, that's a stretch, I think.
It is. I see Bigfoot as interdimensional, like I always said. But I don't see him as fairy, and I don't see him as alien. I see him as Bigfoot. So now we have the Skoggersa. Short, hairy, large-nosed wood elves who are very dangerous. These shape-shifting wood elves usually appear as owls. Uh-oh, where's Joe? In the past, They were often sought out as oracles, but the price they demand for their services was very high and dangerous. Don't let them lure you into playing their game by believing their claims that they know something important which they have to tell you. Though they are rarely seen anymore, they still have the reputation of being a hazardous contact. And for those that don't know, the owl is also seen as a screen memory for alien abduction. The Slaw, name of the unseelie court or the evil fairies in the folklore of Scotland. The name means the host, which is a euphemism to avoid invoking them with the mention of their name and deter them from inflicting harm. They are believed to be the fallen angels that roam the midnight skies of the earth, searching for lost souls. The Slaw are also believed to be responsible for causing sickness and death among domestic animals and to lead humans astray. Sleighbaggy. Little is known about these shy, stocky Manx fairies who live in underground burgs. It is known that they hate the taste of salt and don't like ashes or artificial light, so you are unlikely to find them in your modern home. They're believed to anger easily. The baggies go nude and have crow's feet, which make their footprints easily recognizable. Interesting. So the Sluagh, the most formidable of the Highland fairies. They are the hosts of the unforgiven dead. Some account them as being dead. Some think they are fallen angels. The most popular view is that they are the souls of dead mortals. Sluagh was a Pictish Scottish fairy of the Highlands. Some scholars are there regarded as fallen angels, not the dead, but on the whole their accounts correspond closely to that given by Alexander Carmichael in Carmina Gadelica. Snath Den Sol, yarn of life, song lines, energy lines, dragon lines, all carry the energy through the body. This is a human's mortal coil and or the essence of a fairy. Snow fairies. They take on many different appearances depending on which land they live in. These fairies bring on winter, encourage the snow. Oh, they you know what? They can go back to Alaska or something and bring in the spring fairies. I'm ready for the spring. Had enough snow. And paint frost on window panes. The Snow Queen.
Those are like the ones in Fantasia then.
Pretty much, yeah. The Snow Fairies, they're also in Tinkerbell cartoons. They show them a lot. Now, the Snow Queen is a fairy queen in the folklore of Denmark. She is described as dazzling in her loveliness and as beautiful as the ice crystals themselves. She is the spirit queen of the ice realm, who travels in the blizzards blown from the Arctic wastes. The Snow Queen will entice mortal men to follow her, but to be loved by her means instant death. Well, that sucks.
Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, the C.S. Lewis
Yep.
trilogy. Well, it's more than a trilogy, but
Chronicles of Narnia.
yeah.
The Sovereign Queen. She is the rightful ruler of the Sidhe, of both the Seelie and the Unseelie courts, though their loyalties differ. Her birthright and royal blood give her the power to reign over the keepers of the four treasures. She sometimes acts as keeper as well. The Spear of Lugh is the wand that bleeds fire and ice. No harm sustains, nor enemy arise. One of the four treasures protected by a keeper in the city of Gorias in the east, ruled over by a sovereign stolen by the otherworldly, known as a wand. Spriggans. They're small and round, but can inflate to enormous proportions by suckling in large amounts of air. Sound like a pufferfish. On the ground, they're often mistaken for sharp rocks, and they live both in the mountains and in the sky. They're dangerously malevolent. In Cornwall, Spriggans are bodyguards of the Unseelie court. In centuries past, they were accused of leaving changelings, blighting crops, and being superb thieves, and they can command destructive winds at their will. Though they're immensely greedy, they don't like human misers and will save their worst for them. They originate from England and are believed to be bodyguards of the Unseelie court. That's interesting. Sprites, a name for spirit fairies. Not usually used for earthier forms, Sprite is an elf fairy. First seen in the 1300 AD from Old French esprit or spirit, from Latin spiritus. Described as a nimble elf-like creature, especially one associated with water nixie. Comes from an old High Germanic word, nehusa, to mean a water sprite. Also known as to be a dot of light, sometimes mistaken for fireflies. So, here's where I'm going with that too. In alien abduction cases, you hear about little sparkly dots of light on the ceiling. You ever seen those?
Not that I can remember.
I'm trying to remember. No, I know I've never been abducted. I know that for a fact. They won't take me. But I remember laying in my bed. I think I was stationed in Atlanta because everything happened in Atlanta. I don't know why. And I looked up at the ceiling, and there was no reflection. Because I looked, believe me, I looked, and there were like 100 different little dots of light, all dancing around the ceiling. And that's what this reminds me of, is sprites. And very possible, because I've always worked with fairies for quite a few years. So, sprites are what you see as a dot of light. Yeah, they're usually sparkly, Robert. Usually, well, like they described, dots of light, little sparkles. Fireflies are usually outside, so I'd attribute anything that blinks or there's a little dot of light outside, as long as you're in the south. We don't have fireflies here in the west coast. Spunkies. They've never been seen, but they're not friendly. Reports of their appearance varies, but they are all said to be short, ugly, and long-armed. They are stealers of unprotected children. In the place of the stolen infant, they leave an ugly fairy changeling. And that's not the first time we've heard this description.
What happens with the couples who get that? Do they raise it? Do they raise the fairy child, or do they drown it in the wash
I believe they do, but I also believe they can request their child back, and the fairies have to give them back if they catch it. Because they don't always. I mean, okay, my child got ugly, but they don't always catch on that that's a changeling. The Starfolk, a handsome race of spirits of Algonquin myth. They lie in star country in the sky, a beautiful Eden-like place. The Starfolk can cast spells on people, so they fall ill. They may intermarry with humans. Starfolk might be one we want to look at in comparison with alien races. The Stone of Fowl, Stone of Visions, cries out in dream. Future of Legions, restores our queen. One of the 4 treasures protected by a keeper in the city of Phalius in the north, ruled over by a sovereign. The treasure is a multicolored stone, but reflects like a mirror and cries out under the true sovereign. If not under the true sovereign, it kills anyone with the temerity to look into its mirror. The stone, though heavy, can be relocated by its keeper through magic. The Stray Sod. Some fairies appear as though they are merely a part of the grass. If you unwittingly step on them, you will be unable to continue on your way, no matter how well you know the place. The Stromkarl, a Norwegian musical spirit, like Neck. Okay, we're going to end. Actually, we're going to end with the S's. We'll go a little bit over. Not much, though. The Succubi and the Incubi. I don't see the Succubi and Incubi as fairy.
They're demons.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Well, they're in the hellish realm.
Right. They're malevolent. So the Succubi and Incubi, neither fairy has been seen by human eyes, but their presence has been keenly felt by many unfortunate persons. They see humans as existing for their own perverse amusement. The succubus is a female fairy who sexually attacks human men, and the incubus is a male fairy who sexually attacks human women. Their unprovoked attacks have been documented throughout human history. Their assaults are still going on today. Persons who have been attacked by these malevolent spirits. Okay, there you go. Malevolent spirits. I can get on board with that, but they aren't of the fairy realm.
Yep.
Display mild to severe bruises and bite marks, many of them in places where they could not be self-inflicted. Women may also show torn tissue after an attack. There are the two folk remedies which may help keep them from you. A peony flower taken to bed or a cauldron in the room is said to keep away the incubus. And bluebells or phallic-shaped magical tools are supposed to ward off the succubus. Again, these are not of the fairy realm. These are malevolent entities. Sylphs. I like sylphs. They appear as very small winged creatures. And actually we're going to end with sylphs. We're actually going to end with sylvans. But the sylphs appear as very small winged creatures whose features are vaguely human. They are so light in color and body to be virtually transparent. The wings they bear seem only to be there for show because they appear so buoyant as to defy gravity, and they can hold themselves aloft for long periods without ever moving their tiny wings. Sylphs can be helpful to humans who seek them out. They come from the Greek, meaning butterfly or moth. They are first named by the Rosicrucian and Kabbalists in their folklore. And last for tonight, we're going to talk about sylvans. Sylvans are beautiful fairies who lure humans to their deaths in the woods. As the name suggests, sylvans are wood fairies. And we're going to end with that tonight. It's been a long week. I have my last week of algebra. Thank the gods. And then I start my terrorism class. You got anything to add, Markham?
Do I what?
You got anything to add?
No. Other than I think one of my big bosses is coming in today.
Oh, hell. Have fun with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to put it. I got to click off and get everything packed. I'm actually going to go to a weekend nights position, and I think that's part of the HR game I got to play.
Indeed, and thank you, Andy. I'm glad y'all enjoyed this. I think we'll do one more show of fairy, and that'll wrap it up. Next week, we'll probably be able to cover the rest of the fairies in half hour to an hour, and then we'll actually keep with our schedule and talk about how to compare the alien races with fairy and spirit in a paranormal case. So on that note, y'all have a good night. We'll talk to you next week.